Magnus Carlsen is known for his brilliance on the chessboard. He had claimed victories throughout his leading career. However, even the greatest players can experience their share of blunders. Join us as we dig into the defining moment of Carlsen's career, the biggest blunder he ever made. It was a clash of titans, Carlsen versus Vladislav Otomiev. Otomiev, a rising star in the chess world, has a unique style and an unwavering determination to challenge the world champion. With his awesome skills and strategic plays, Otomiev carved his path, leaving a trail of defeated opponents in his way. Witness the moves that led to Carlsen's downfall and the lasting impact it had on his legacy. A strong Russian GM may take his time making the opening move. He spends around 10 seconds moving his pawn to square d4. We are going to have a fairly traditional opening on the board since Magnus answers with knight f6. He goes c4. As a result, there are no trump home keys, no London systems, or anything of the kind on the board. Otomiev chooses to play knight to f3, and Magnus immediately plays bishop b4 check. You can see Magnus moving fairly quickly out of the opening ordinarily. He likes to take his time, but in this case, he notices that his opponent is taking time. Magnus has since captured on d2. Magnus plays fairly traditionally in the middle with d5. White can claim that he is playing for an edge in this position is that black's bishop on c8 is not very good because all of the pawns are on light squares. Magnus Carlsen. It should be noted that Magnus has played this opening frequently in the past, most recently in the Sinkfield Cup against Levin Aroniel with the black pieces. And he uses this when he wants to have a very strong position and avoid trying to push too hard, which is the case here because he is ahead by a 4 point. Now, observe Otomiev. He places his rook on c1 but doesn't develop his bishop because he wants Magnus to take, which he does, allowing him to do so in a single move rather than wasting the tempo. Here, Magnus takes on d4, where white is slightly better because all of his pieces are developed. This is a crucial moment for Magnus, because if he plays knight c6 then after knight takes c6, b takes c6, this is a very weak pawn. You never want to play that way. You may want to play rook d8, which is one way, but it's Magnus's move, and he moves the knight to c6. If bishop f3, he might then decide to take on d4. So let's see how Otomiev responds when he plays his bishop to f3. Sometimes you have to play openings like this as black to just equalize and draw the game, which is what Magnus wants to do. Magnus appears to be in good spirits right now. How should Magnus proceed? He must play defense against b2 because it seems like someone will give a draw at some point. It would be excellent to play your king to g7 at some point, which would be a nice, beneficial move to make. The move that Otomiev wants to make is probably rook d2 and trade the rooks down the d file, but before he can do that, Magnus exchanges on d1, queen takes d1. You have to be a little careful here about what you want to do as black. One idea can be queen c5, and he does it. He wants to pin the knight here from moving, and maybe then go knight e4 if it's possible. Magnus is a master of making little improving moves. Otomiev time, he has less than 2 minutes remaining on the clock, and somewhere Otomiev time could motivate Magnus to play on, because when your opponent is low on time, he can make mistakes. Magnus has 10 more minutes than his opponent, so what is he going to do? He moves the knight to e4 and starts pressing the clock, but looks at the bar that has just risen, and now observes Magnus's expressions. Will Otomiev notice that this is a major mistake or not? You just aren't seeing it because he takes a pawn, but from Magnus's expressions, it is clear that he has. The world champion really can't believe what he has done and is just so unhappy, as evidenced by the wide range of emotions on his face, as Otomiev goes f4 and looks at Magnus, realizing that that was a terrible blunder. Magnus is furious because he often doesn't make mistakes like this. This is a mistake of an entire piece, and he immediately sits back down. If the queen moves to f5, the position changes to g4. Otomiev immediately goes g4. Rook takes c3. Magnus does indeed possess a pawn, but the white rook is extremely active, and Otomiev might just be aware of his intended play at this point. Rook d7, when the rook advances to the 7th rank and attacks the a7 pawn, the game is over. Magnus Carlsen is shaking his head. There isn't much the world champion can do here. He just has to play a few more moves, or he can resign here with no regrets. The rook is just so active that he's going to clean up both of these pawns, and then the pain will start running down the board. The unpredictable turnabout in the tournament, though, as Magnus held a 1-point lead going into this round, but with this defeat, Otomiev will now overtake him. This game is a terrific illustration of how even the strongest players make similar mistakes, and Otomiev knows that he has the game in the bag. Rook a7 assaulting the a6 pawn. Take a look at Magnus, who is very, very upset. Magnus moves the knight to d6 but thinks that he should now play a6, knight c8, or perhaps just rook a8 to kick the knight away. Magnus then resigns once he plays that move.